You know, I'm just playing. I wanted to thank everybody for coming and joining me tonight. I'm hoping people come in the room. This is a great opportunity to really get into some deep, deep vetted stuff. Hey Carlotta, so glad you could join your sis. I miss y'all. Looking forward to this conversation because it's going to be about different cities. You know, what's going on in the Black communities with these different cities. And tonight I have Stephen Graves, and we're gonna introduce him in a minute here. I am introducing this awesome guest. He is a leader in his community. He's a fireman, and he's also a minister. And I'm excited to introduce him and have him on this dialogue. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so glad to have you on. I wanted to dig right on in because I've been telling everybody about this dialogue. So first of all, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your wife? You know, just kind of in a nutshell, share with everybody who you are.
Steve Graves, Kansas City firefighter for the last 14 years of the gospel here in Kansas City, Missouri. Have a son, Stephen the Fourth, who is an exact replica of me. Have a daughter, Tyler, and I have a wife of 7 years, Terry.
Wow. So it's lovely to have you on the show. You know what the dialogue is all about. We're just out here to lift up communities and also really lift up the Black businesses that we have. It's important that we begin to connect. Now that we're doing all this virtual stuff, we're able to really lift up some Black businesses. My location is in Texas now, and we're talking about all the things that went on, with the George Floyd trials and everything that's going on this week, literally up there in Minneapolis. And we're supporting our families and stuff there. How are our Black communities doing in Kansas City?
I would say our Black community in Kansas City is doing fairly well. We're at a kind of a turning point where things are shifting, I believe, for the better. We're more empowered. We have more of a desire for togetherness. We're I feel like we're ready to really push for more instead of just accepting what's being handed to us. The Black community in Kansas City we're pushing for more. We want more. We expect more. You know, I was saying we want the same things that the outlying areas have.
Gotcha.
You know, we want good sidewalks. We want the same quality of food in our grocery stores. You know, in Kansas City, we have a few food deserts where there are no grocery stores within a 1 mile walk. So, you know, we're fighting for that. You know, some of those things are changing. So we just want the same thing that everybody wants. We want the American dream, just like the next person.
Right. So when you talk about that, let's dive in real deep. We want to talk about the differences between the Black and white communities. And just for my audience that we have today, if you're new, I want you to know it's not about color until it's about people, right? So we have to remember, you know, we're Black natives, but we are natives. We're from America. That's where we're from. We got brothers and sisters in different countries that look for a leader in America that can really strengthen us. When that I have to just say this, when that George Floyd thing happened, it wasn't just Americanized. It was universal. It went all over the entire world. So we have to look at what our work is. And that's why I'm so happy to have you. Let's talk about, you know, the differences between the Black and white communities and what they're offered versus what we're offered in that. Let's talk about that.
Well, just to speak from my perspective, in Kansas City, I'm from what for many years was categorized as the worst zip code in the city, which was the 64127 zip code. There's an intersection in that zip code, 27th and Prospect, which for many years, if you go back into the HBO archives, there was actually a show they did where they went to 27th and Prospect and showed the crosses in the ground that were representative of the amount of people that have been killed in the city. So that's where I'm from. I grew up seeing the lack of opportunity. I grew up seeing my friends make a way out of no way. And now here I am, an adult man with my own family, and I live in now what is one of the most affluent zip codes in Kansas City, Missouri. So to just put some context, I grew up in the hood with all the black people, and now I live in the suburbs with all the white people. So there is a distinct difference from my perspective of what is offered up here for my son versus what was offered there for me. And when I say the difference in offering, I mean from every aspect, just you name it. The resources that are available to my 14-year-old son versus the resources that were available to a 14-year-old Stephen Graves from 27th and Prospect are night and day.
Since you are a fireman, what's going on in that area? I mean, I know that's probably got to be really different for you.
So in the area of the fire department here locally, our newspaper just did a huge three-part article highlighting some of the disparities and the racial inequality that has gone on for decades within our fire department. So as Black firefighters, our push now is we want equality. The article highlighted how there are not many Black firefighters. Let's use that zip code that I gave you previously, the 64127 zip code. That zip code has roughly 3,500 residents in a 1 mile radius of that zip code. And out of those 3,500 residents, 90 to 95% of those residents are African American. Now that number is starting to change due to gentrification, but the fire station in that zip code that serves that zip code, out of 3 shifts, out of, let's see, 12, 24, 36 firefighters, there's 1 African American. So what we're pushing for is to have more representation and inclusion in our zip code, in our communities, because it's not about, let me just put it this way. To me, it's not about me not feeling like a white person can serve my grandmother, my grandmother passed away in October. And when she was in hospice, the fire truck had to come several times, and it was white guys. And those white guys treated my grandmother with dignity. They treated my grandmother with honor. So it's not about the fact that we don't feel like they can serve our community. What it's about is when that fire truck pulls up and those doors open, I want a little Black boy or a little Black girl to see someone that looks like them, so that they know this too is an opportunity for them, because representation and inclusion are critical, especially in 2021. So for me as a young man, I didn't see a lot of Black firefighters. So when I grew up, I didn't know that this was an opportunity for me. But if we can get into that community and serve that community, and when that truck pulls up, they see us, someone that looks like them, someone that understands their culture, someone that has been possibly where they are and can uplift them and encourage them to get out. That's what it's about for me, representation and inclusion.
Are you all trying to push to get some more jobs in those, in those areas, so that these, Black communities that, need jobs instead of unemployment checks and things like that we've been used to? The change. I mean, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do?
So from the fire department perspective, we're actually about to go into our recruiting process. We recruit every 2 years, and I'm actually injured right now. So during my time being injured, the chief of the department has me serving alongside with our public relations guy, kind of as his assistant, and getting us more involved in the community. So as we prepare to start recruiting, we're going to absolutely make sure, and we're not going to neglect the any community, but we're going to make sure we're targeting minorities, because that's what we need. It's bigger than numbers to me. Many people don't know that every employer with over 15 employees are required to keep record of your hiring, how many minorities you have versus non-minorities. And there are certain targets that those companies are supposed to be within. It's bigger than that for me. I yes, I want us to hit those targets, but I want us to have the opportunity. Like that's the biggest thing, the opportunity, because every young African American, um, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, that every last one of them are not going to go to college. College is not for everyone. So this goes to the fire department, but it's even broader than that, because trade, like, get you a trade if it's cutting hair. I have a nephew, smart young man. He's 14, same age as my son, but that young man has already made it clear he wants to be a barber. So don't waste your money sending him to college, send him to trade school. So while with the fire department, we're about to start recruiting. We're going to really target minorities and get minorities involved. You're right. We do have to figure out as a community, how do we bring more jobs to the community, or how do we make our community aware of the jobs that are available.
So let's dig in, because this is what we talked about too. One of the things that was deep to me is, I think the answer is building different school structures. There's a charter school model. There's a lot of Black communities that can really utilize those charter school models by coming together as a community and addressing what's needed. And you discussed what those things were. Let's talk about it. What do
So,
you
so, so when you say come together, we talked about this earlier, and it's just what I see. We are our own worst enemy. We keep us from being successful. So you hear so many times that the white man hold me down. No, it be us holding us down, because systemically we have been taught to be competitive. We've been taught that you got to have more than him, or you got to have more than her. The system tried to teach me not to speak to you as a young African American man in that airport and just say, hello, how you doing? And have a conversation with you, which turned into this. That's what the system wanted. But I'm going to go against the system. I'm going to be a gentleman like my mother and grandmother and aunt raised me to be. I'm going to speak to you, because I always say you never know who holds the key to your future. So we are our own worst enemy. And if we could just get out of the mindset of competing and trying to tear each other down and figure out, okay, how can we come together? You're right. The charter school system is huge here in Kansas City. You know, our school district lost its accreditation when I was in school. Now they're on the road. I think they have it back now, but the school district is much better. But you have the charter schools come in, and you're right. But if we could just work together.
So you said work together, and I know I had a young man on a couple of weeks ago, and I got another young man coming on in a couple of weeks, and they're both literally professionals that deal with the disease of which you and I are discussing right now, which is, like you said, competitiveness, hatred, all this stuff that's been grafted in. It's not just a mental issue, it's an emotional issue. We can't get beyond what we are used to doing because we're so emotionally checked out. They're used to these rappers, and they're used to these people they see on TV. But these people that isn't reality. Reality is find somebody who can lead and let them help you get where you need to be, and be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Be okay
somebody
with it.
Somebody that will push you to be better. That's how I think about it. Surround yourself with, they always say, show me your 5 friends and I'll show you your future. Well, all right, that's true, but I got some friends that are not successful, just like I have some friends who are successful. I'm a minister. I got some friends that are straight thugs, and I got some friends that are holy rollers.
Gotta reach them.
I learn from the thugs, and I learn from the holy rollers, because they keep things into perspective for me.
Right.
So, get people in your life that will keep things in perspective for you. Get people in your life that will motivate you and not hate on you. You know, you gotta have people in your circle that will call you out when you're wrong, encourage you when you're successful, you know, and even encourage you when you're not successful. I always say celebrate even the smallest of victories because it's still a victory.
That's our answer. I mean, the solution, just like you and I. It's hard for women to talk to women. That's a whole nother mentality. But Black women are so strong anyway. And so with that comes this whole other thing. And it to me, it can be considered arrogant. It can be considered prideful. But the bottom line, if you look at, like you were a minister, I know the word. If you look at the word, prideful is destruction. So we got to get to the point that we realize we have to have each other to get where we need to be.
You probably make cornbread the way you make cornbread because of the way your mother or your grandma made it.
That's
We're
awesome.
creatures of habit. So you're going to be resilient because they were resilient. They taught you to be resilient. They taught you not to break. Now we might bend, but we're a resilient people.
Yeah, that's just like the conversation that I was having with some family, you know, real close sister type family. Same thing, you know, it's like, why, you know, am I who I am? It's because of who I'm dealing with. So Black people just need to get it back to the basics because we all have the same struggle, but we're not going in the same direction.
And a lot of it is, you know, you're right. A lot of us have the same struggle. We're not going in the same direction, and I think one thing we have to do is we have to get back to Christ. I think that's one thing. Another thing is we have to, where many people see problems, I see opportunities, and we have to look for the opportunities. You know, I think if more of us would look for the opportunity to, okay, a vacant house. Okay, in Kansas City, in the inner city, if there's 10 houses on the block, 5 to 7 of those houses may be vacant. Mm-hmm. Well, many people will see that as a problem. I'm a person that I'm like, man, somebody could buy that house and you know, rent it out or you know, turn it into a shelter. Like, I think we have to, you know, seek opportunities to be better.
The struggle is really hard for us because how did we get to 13%? And we basically were half of the population back 400 years ago. So probably more than half. Because it took a lot to do them fields back in the day, right?
It did.
But we had more than two, you know, people that owned it, you know. So what I'm saying is the population was many. And now we're at that's huge. That's okay.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. That has a lot to do with homicide rate. That has a lot to do with incarceration. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, that's a good one. We're gonna have to put that on. I'm already past the whole 20 minutes, but I hope people enjoyed it. I sure did. I really did, and I'm glad that I met you. God, really, I believe that was a God thing because there was no way that I could see the same vision you saw, but you in a different city from me. You know what I'm saying? It's just really, it's got to be a connection, you know, as far as our, you know, godly spirit. So anyway, I want to thank you for that. And then I want to thank all of those who are hung in there and was kicking it with us. Thank you so much for coming in the room.
I'ma tell you this one time. Boy, I want you to be mine. Can I come see you now? Can I lay with you outside? Can I touch your lips with mine? 'Cause I need you.
Yeah, baby, I got all dressed up for you.
Don't wanna leave, I just wanna
Yes.
be here by your side.
I don't know the song, but I'm learning how to improvise. I miss you. Oh no. My eyelash, these fake eyelashes.